Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of This Week in Plymouth. I'm your host, Derek Brindisi, and your town manager. So this afternoon, I have two new guests for the first time, David Reservitz, attorney, Michael Bergeron, attorney. So I know you guys haven't had a chance to come on this show. You're fairly new to the town, but just to give you a little background. So we started this show back in March time period, and it's been my opportunity to really speak with the residents and give them good information, give them facts. As you know, there's a lot of misinformation on social media, so this is our opportunity to just give data and good facts. So ask you guys both to join us this afternoon because there was a lot of discussion at the fall town meeting back in October about bringing in-house town council to town hall. And quite honestly, this has been a discussion not just this past year, but when I was the assistant town manager, we talked about it with A&F back then, and from talking to the chairman of the select board, she had been talking about it previous to her time even being a select board member. So I think bringing town council into town hall has been probably a decades-old conversation, and so we finally made it. So before we talk about our rationale and the things that we're doing, what I was hoping we could do is just kind of go around the room and give you each an opportunity to talk a little bit about who you are and some of your experiences in law. Michael, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I've been doing this about 25 years. Dave and I met about 25 years ago. Our paths crossed, had known each other through law school, though I think we went to the same law school. I was at night, you were at days maybe, about a year apart. So we were in the same building, never crossed paths till we were cutting our teeth as young guys in Brockton and developed a friendship. And we've been partners without being partners for about 20 years now. Yeah. So sharing cases, doing work together, civil litigation, criminal litigation, a lot of different things. So became friends over the years, socialized together. Tried skiing together, but Dave's a little better than me.
Much.
Yeah, so, it just developed that way, and one thing led to another, and our paths found your path in about the fall of this year, as I remember.
Right.
So I have to say, it's been excellent there, and your staff is talented and good to us and welcoming, and yeah, it's been real good. So thank you.
That. David?
Yeah, thank you. Dave Reservitz. It's great to be on board with the town of Plymouth. We love it. As Mike said, we're law partners now, but we've practiced in the legal community in Plymouth County since 1996 or 97. And I'm a Brockton guy, born and raised. And I know Mike is Marshfield down this way, and we both, have families in the area. And when the opportunity came to help out the town of Plymouth, we were really excited about it. And Plymouth it's a big place. It's as everyone knows, it's the largest town in the state by population and by land size. There's a lot going on in the town, a lot of issues, a lot of great things, but a lot of legal issues. So we're really excited to have rolled up our sleeves and go to work here in Plymouth.
And there's not just the two of you. You guys bring a whole group of other attorneys that specialize in things like labor and land use and planning and things of that nature. But I want to kind of get back to the rationale. So, I had worked for the city of Worcester for 15 years, and I talk about that often. And we had a law department, so it was really convenient to be able to pick up the phone and speak to an attorney, or drive over to City Hall and sit down with an attorney and have these types of conversations. And to me, that was always kind of the missing ingredient here in the past. The town has used other law firms, continues to use other law firms. In fact, I think the select board has appointed 4 different law firms just in the past 12 months alone, for varying reasons. For example, we use a law firm out of Boston that just handles our negotiations with Holtec, right?
Sure.
But they're specialized in the nuclear industry.
Right.
So it's not uncommon for municipalities to have, many different forms and functions of town council. But what's unique about this partnership is that although you're a private firm, you're working directly in town hall. And so for the folks that are listening, your office is now on the 4th floor. It's directly across from the town manager's office and the HR office.
Yeah, don't forget Silvio.
Right, Silvio from Human Resources, I think, spends a lot of time over there these days.
Yeah.
I know right now you're given office hours Tuesdays and Thursdays, but can someone kind of talk about this hybrid model and because I can tell you it's working for us, but it'd be interesting to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I would say, especially this day and age, computers, the internet changed everything for law firms. And I know the three of us and expanding to our other colleagues, we'll be doing emails remotely from home at 7, 8 o'clock at night after we get home for dinner. Early mornings, we're texting and emailing, frequently. It's not 9 to 5 anymore. And when we're there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, everybody can catch up. But at the same time, we can also walk back to our other offices, get quiet time, and tackle both Plymouth stuff and some other stuff that we may have going on. So I think it's been a great blend of the hybrid model. So I would say that.
Yeah, and it seems like we're at Town Hall a little bit more than we're not, frankly, during the work week, which is great. Just the accessibility and the connection that's just immediate is really helpful to the town. I know that we had some conversations, Derek, about how prior council does a great job, but Plymouth is a very large community,
right,
with a lot of needs. And you have worked for the city of Worcester in the past, and you're accustomed to the benefits of having a law department and the need. So we're excited to, fill that void for the town. And we think that there's probably going to be even more accessibility to the members of this community to get access to, representation for town matters.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good segue to my next question because, I go back to the conversation that took place at town meeting, and honestly, since my short time back, we had a special town meeting in June, and then we had the fall town meeting. So I've had 2 town meetings. I haven't been here a year yet, a lot of the articles in my short time have been controversial. That the select board have tried to advance for whatever reason. But this was, this was a select board initiative. This was one article that wasn't controversial. This town meeting, we didn't take a vote on this, but was super supportive of finally having in-house town counsel. And I know that I've talked to a number of town meeting members, and they had been asking this for years. They felt like they don't have the ability, the technical knowledge on how to draft an article themselves. And there are precincts out there that want to submit articles, but just never had access to town council. And so I think for that reason alone, they really supported this model. And so that kind of takes us into, what your vision is to be able to support the town meeting members as we move forward.
Yeah, we have a real optimistic vision of that. I don't want to step on your toes, but Michael's been involved in that as well. I think what the biggest benefit of this really, and to be candid, is that there's no added costs to the taxpayers or the community that we anticipate. For towns or other cities, any municipalities to hire outside counsel can be a real major expense. And I know that's on a lot of people's minds. Bringing in this hybrid model does not increase that cost. Our expectation is it may even decrease that. So we believe that this is a real benefit to the town. In addition to those benefits financially, there's going to be this access. And we expect to offer office hours in the town hall, either on our Tuesdays or Thursdays where we're staffed there. There's 4 lawyers at Reservitz, Bergeron that staff the office at town hall, and perhaps expand that if necessary to just make ourselves available.
Yeah, if I could just make an observation along that lines and use past 3-4 months as my point of view as being the new guys here. The immediacy of us and being involved with your office staff, with human resource, the department heads, it seems to make everybody more efficient in terms of getting things done much quicker. Whether they're emailing us or they're walking across the hall on Tuesdays and Thursdays, setting up team meetings, I think any delay that may have occurred in past years, maybe something that needed to be done that day, maybe you couldn't get to for a week or two.
Right.
But things seem to be running smoother as I talk to people and make observations. So I think that's going to happen as well with what you're planning here. So.
No, but that's a great point. That's one thing that I didn't even think about bringing up today, but the point of, so we have a staff meeting with all department heads, as you both now know, every Tuesday at 9 a.m. So Tuesday mornings, fire chief, police chief, finance director, DPW director, assistant town manager, we all get in a room and we spend a better part of 2 hours talking about town business. And we could probably talk for 4 hours if, because there's that much going on. But what the missing component was 4 months ago was not having counsel sit in the room. And I can tell you just from where I stand, when you start to hear the conversations of what come up, I've already seen you both in action, you start bringing up issues, like legal issues that we need to consider. And in the past, there was no voice to raise those issues. And we would have to identify them and say, geez, should we contact counsel? And then someone had to pick up the phone, and then we kind of start that ball.
Yeah, the
but
delay.
now,
There's
you're
a natural delay.
right?
Yeah.
And so, but now you guys in the room, you hear the issues that are being brought up by all the different department heads, and you're able to kind of intervene right away, and that may lead to a sidebar meeting where we have to take some legal action. So, you're right. That's a really good point of just kind of the efficiency of
your office.
Right.
Yeah.
The other piece to this, and it's interesting because I remember when this was being discussed, not debated, back in October, and someone said to me, well, if these guys are in the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays, are they going to be charging us for all that time?
Yeah.
And it's actually a good question when you think about it. And I think David, you had even answered that question, I think, at a meeting where it says, of course we wouldn't be doing that, unless we're working on town business. However,
yeah, it's been busy.
Right?
As Michael had mentioned, we have our own practice, and we are a hybrid model. And I think there's a good amount of municipal attorneys in Plymouth County and throughout the state that have their own law practices or are members of law firms, and they also represent a town or city or two. And then there are big municipal firms, and a lawyer or a group of lawyers there may have 2 or 3 towns or a city that they represent. So Michael and I have our practices, which are Plymouth County-based practices, but I would say at least half of our time is spent working with the town of Plymouth now. And it really has been running very smoothly, being on site. And I think that when this was brought up sometime in the fall of 2022, I can see why people are so excited about the idea. I know it's something that you had always envisioned, a somewhat mini or quasi-law department for a town that is bigger than all the other towns and bigger than many of the cities in Massachusetts if you define it by its form of government.
Yeah, and honestly, I know we're decades into the 21st century, but this is a 21st century model where a community this size should have a legal team that is there on a regular basis, providing guidance. And, getting back to that question of are they going to charge us or not, I don't even think that's a question anymore, because the volume of work, and you're now seeing it, is so immense that I know that when you're in the office on those Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's 100% Plymouth business, because there's no time for anything else.
Yeah, I think I can give a good example actually along that lines. First, Dave and I have been doing this too long to put ourselves in a bad light or you in a bad light. So none of that billing issue is going on. But like, we're doing work at night, all home, watching sports or whatever, exchanging emails with you. This morning, I had to be at Wareham at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
My own case. I went over there, came back to Town Hall, went down the other room, did some non-Plymouth work for an hour or so, and then jumped right back into work for Plymouth with Dave and Stacy. We're watching and taking care of some town issues. But I can promise you, Plymouth was not billed from 9 to 12 o'clock.
Sure.
So it is a hybrid model, and it works. We're all like-minded people. We like to work, and I think we're getting it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there's a lot of great, you had mentioned how we participate in the department head meetings. Almost every issue has some legal issue attached to it, whether HR brings up an issue with employment. That's a real issue throughout employers all over the state. And the town of Plymouth is a large employer. There's real estate issues. The town is required to acquire property. The town may benefit its community by selling property. There's all types of complex municipal issues that are constantly being raised at these department head meetings, and right when some of them are being resolved, new ones are arising. So it's busy work.
Well, I can tell you, and I've said this before, that I have not received any negative comments. Everything has been positive from every department head who you've worked with to anyone who's had some FaceTime with you. They've all have said that this is, they're not even calling it an experiment anymore. Like they're all saying, like, this is working and it's working well. And so, we certainly want to continue that. And I think the next step is, now that you're here, is now, as you had pointed out earlier, David, is how do we start to engage town meeting members who really found value in this. And you mentioned office hours. We'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. Yeah. But one thing I do want to mention for town meeting members in particular that are watching this tonight, that if they need to connect with you and your team, it's a very simple email. It's RBLAW, so R as in Reservitz, B as in Bergeron, LAW, at plymouth-ma.gov. So, and I know that's a distribution list. That's, your entire team would receive those emails. So, it gets high visibility if somebody sends you an email.
That email will get to our team of attorneys and our staff, which we are proud of our turnaround time. But for purposes of this venture, we want to be accessible to the community. That's important to us, and that was something that was discussed at the very first select board meeting. And we want to connect with the people of Plymouth, and we are proud to be their lawyers. And we're busy, like a lot of lawyers and most people are. But we want to be able to carve out some time so that the representatives of the people of Plymouth know that they can have access to us, which is something that they had not had before.
That's right. That's right. And I know we've already received a couple inquiries from town meeting members who, are looking for assistance with drafting an article.
Right.
And I think what we need to do as a team is put a policy in place so the rules of engagement are very clear. So as we discuss office hours, when those will be, how they can set up an appointment with someone from the team, and then what the expectations are, I guess at my level, for, in this case, an article submittal. So, we would treat it no differently than how we treat board and committee article submittal. So, if you're a committee member on a certain committee, you'd go to your committee, you get a majority affirmative vote to submit an article, and that would be sent to the assistant town manager during the period when the warrant is open. We would expect the same for our precincts, that they would have a discussion that's important to them within their precinct. They would receive an affirmative majority vote,
Sure.
And then at that point, then it would be advanced to council.
Yeah, I think the best way for it to work, or like anything else, is to streamline the issues. And then once the so-called boots on the ground have streamlined the issues of that precinct or whatever that issue may be, then it comes to us and we can offer opinion and guidance on that issue.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. It'll work. We'll make it work.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of our next step, so just to get something out in writing to the town meeting members so that they understand that you're there to help.
Right.
But again, we have 162 town meeting members, and getting 162 emails all at once is just is unruly. So we want to have some like I said, rules of engagement around that. So again, just so folks who are listening, the best way to reach the gentleman to my left is at rblaw@plymouth-ma.gov, and you guys certainly will take it from there. So again, I appreciate you guys coming in, and like I mentioned at the top of the hour, I try to use this segment to talk about what had happened the previous night at the select board meeting. And one of the issues that came up is a very important issue in town. So there's this Claremont development. I think it's a 200 unit, 55 plus residential rental structure in the west that's slated to be built, received ZBA approval a few weeks ago. We brought this in front of the select board on Tuesday night for a development agreement. And so I know, David, that you worked on the development agreement a little bit. Did you want to talk a little bit about that agreement?
Sure. It's an exciting project. I think, as most people know, there's a housing crunch in Massachusetts. Plymouth is no exception. This plan was brought to the town's attention, and it was immediately recognized as a good plan. We were looking at well-placed, well-designed, somewhat modest-sized 55 and older rental units. I think there's 199 of them. Mm-hmm. And the attorney that represents the developer is another local Plymouth attorney who I've known for years, named Walter Sullivan, and Comerfield here on the South Shore in Plymouth County. I think the developer also has done some work here in the town of Plymouth and is a Plymouth County. I believe they're Bridgewater, one of the Bridgewater based. Forgive me, I can't remember whether it's Bridgewater or East Bridgewater, but they're a local developer that is accountable and responsible and has built some nice projects. So I think that's one of the larger and latest projects that is an opportunity for the town. And
you worked very closely with their attorneys, so I want folks to be aware that the development agreement that I talked about Tuesday night was fully vetted by not only Town Council, but their attorney as well. And what folks need to be aware of, and this is where I get back to kind of the fact-based discussion, is that the reason why we had to have this development agreement is because we have some would define as a water crisis in West Plymouth. And we were made aware that through a engineering consultant, that in the West Plymouth water pressure zone, we have a deficit of 1 million gallons of water per day under this firm capacity definition. So today, in the early part of January, we have plenty of water. But firm capacity really is defined as when our largest well is down during a drought period, we wouldn't have sufficient water to provide water to our consumers and to put out a fire. So right. Because of this, I would say, very extreme circumstance, the only way the town could remedy this through the engineering consultant's recommendation is to build a booster station. And that's where Claremont came into this. Claremont didn't create a $1 million gallon deficit. That's already there. It's here today. Claremont hasn't even put a shovel in the ground yet. They actually, to their credit, again, you guys were able to work out the agreement. We were able to come together and say, listen, Claremont's willing to build this booster station at their cost. What they're asking from the town to do is to waive about $1.5 million in building fees, water and sewer connection fees. And so the way I look at it is Claremont is actually assisting the town, because if Claremont doesn't build this booster station, then we have to build the booster station. So I said to the board on Tuesday night that I'm going to have to go to town meeting, whether it's in April or whether it's in October, to ask for $4.5 million to build a booster station. So Claremont is kind of giving us a lifeline and saying, listen, we'll build it for you. But of course, part of that agreement is that they're going to be able to construct their 200-unit apartment building. And so, I want people to be aware of that, because I know for a fact that many people think that the board is not thinking about the environment, that the board is so pro-development that they're putting at risk our water supply, and that's actually not the case. We have plenty of water in the system today. That's a fact. The engineers have written that, have reduced that to writing. The problem we have today is that we have a high quantity in one pressure zone and a low quantity in another pressure zone. So this booster station will be able to pull water in the area where we have a high quantity and push it over to West Plymouth in order to satisfy the water needs over there. So again, this is really important. Again, I thank you for being able to craft this development. But now we're at another crossroads because we have this development agreement in front of us. Both parties are in agreement that this is in the best interest of all of town residents, given the fact that the residents will have to pay the $40 million. We're going to provide water to West Plymouth, which it helps all of our consumers in West Plymouth. But an appeal was filed against the ZBA's approval, and this could hold up and even stop this potential development agreement.
Yeah, I happened to sit in on the board meeting on Tuesday. Dave was unavailable, so I jumped in and sat there and actually answered some questions of one of the board members. One important fact, I think, Derek, which the residents should know is you mentioned the 1 million gallons per day. As you indicated at the board meeting, Claremont's project, as I understood it, was only 30,000 gallons a day.
Yeah,
so
good point.
the water with Claremont really has nothing to do with the big picture here. And Claremont, in my experience with Dave as well, has been nothing but partners with Plymouth. And there's nothing sinister going on. There's no backdoor deals here. Everybody was working together to do the most important thing for the town of Plymouth. And this is a booster station that is needed. And I would say to the residents, don't believe the noise that's out there with the filing of the appeal. That came in Tuesday morning, and we were kind of all hands on deck in the office on Tuesday. We've had a lot more time to look at it, and we're still all hands on deck. But I can tell you we're going to be doing a couple things probably within the next 30 to 60 days. One is a motion to dismiss. There's been a standing issue brought up. I don't think I've even talked to you about it today. But the condo units, in all likelihood, do not have standing. They don't own the property there. So they would need a large percentage of the condo units for the association to jump in.
Gotcha.
And that's just not there. So that's going to be one of the arguments on the motion to dismiss. The other thing will be, about a year and a half ago, they amended the statute to prevent the filing of appeals without the posting of the bond. So now a bond of $50,000 we're going to ask for, if we have to, in terms of securing any monies the town would lose, because I do believe that Plymouth will win this. So just a matter of time.
So more to come on this agreement. We are running out of time. I thank you both for coming in, and thank you for giving some more background to this Claremont issue.
Happy to do it.
And we'll come back in a future day to hopefully have resolution to this Claremont issue. So I thank you both for coming. I thank you all for joining us this evening, and more to come in the future. If you ever want any information, go to our website at www.plymouth-ma.gov. Thank you, and have a good day.